Are we ready?
Yes. So cameras on you, Mitchell.
Cameras on me. Dante stops squeaking like a mouse. And welcome back to another interview for our Cigars YouTube channel. And today I'm very happy to be welcoming my old friend Scott Vines from Tor Imports, the actual premier importer of New World cigars to the UK, and a long-time friend of mine. I've been a long-time supporter of Tor Imports, and yes, welcome, Scott.
Thank you very much, Mitchell. I'm glad to be here.
We're glad to have you here, and we've got some very important questions to ask you today, including who's your favourite customer, which I always ask you.
Am I allowed to answer that?
100%, absolutely. Everyone's watching this.
Carry on, Mitchell.
Okay, so we know your favourite customer is the mighty Cigars Limited. And what part did Cigars Limited have in the success of Tor Imports?
Oh gosh, well if you think back, Mitchell, I mean I got involved with Tor 12 years ago now.
Was it only 12 years? I don't know why I thought it was longer.
12 years. And if you think back to those heavy days when our portfolio was pretty average, and we concentrated in those days more on machine-made dried Dutch cigars, which we still sell a phenomenal amount of in the UK.
Sure do.
And I always remember sitting down with you at the very beginning, and we kind of had this story about one day the New World concept would become something worth talking about. I can remember in those days going around the trade and seeing the walls of the humidors fixed with Cuba, 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 and at the bottom of the shelf there would be maybe a box of a Sheraton or a box of something else, and the retailers generally in the UK would think of Cuban and non-Cuban, and non-Cuban had to be cheap to sell. And I think, praise to you, you were one of the early adopters of the New World concept that we put together, because you saw that as a long-term future. So you were really instrumental in helping me at the beginning to get the message of the New World out there to the consumer.
I was a super early adopter, actually.
A super early adopter.
Because, as you know, my two original suppliers 25 years ago, well actually before then, but let's just talk about 25 years ago when we started Cigars, was Hunters and Franco, who have been obviously incredibly supportive of my career since day one. And I'm known as a Havana cigar specialist, my first love. And I also sold a lot of their Lime Victor and Santa Damiana cigars, which are New World cigars, right from the get-go. And they were less expensive than Cuban cigars, for sure.
Yeah.
We did have a core of customers, although it was only probably 1-2% back in the 1990s. And then my other very early supplier and supporter was Mark Acton, who was the owner of Tor Imports. And he was also instrumental in my success, because I remember him coming to my first office in Kingsgate and sitting down with me and spending a whole afternoon with his price list, going through them and saying, Mitchell, don't do that range, don't do that range, do that range, but don't do that size. And he helped build our brand portfolio.
Yeah. And
we supported his brands that he recommended that we would take. And we supported him. And of course, the business went on and developed, and you took over. I think it was JJ Fox at one stage owned Tor Imports.
For about 4 or 5 years. Yeah.
Okay, so that was a different period of time when I don't think I was doing much business with them, because we felt Tor had sort of lost its way brand portfolio wise.
Yeah.
But then we met up, we had a discussion, a few discussions, and you rationalised, rounded off and balanced out the portfolio, and we promised complete support.
Correct.
And I think we've given complete support.
Yeah.
And well, I could go on and on, but I think that's the crux of the situation.
No, absolutely, and I think the moments for us were brands like the first new ranges I brought in. We already had like the Padron and the Oliva.
Yes.
And
Fuente.
They stuck with us. Yeah, Padron and Oliva stuck with us.
Right.
Some people maybe didn't see the vision that maybe I had for the long term, so they parted. And then we brought in people like Alec Bradley, and then Hoya de Nicaragua, and then Drew Estate.
Yeah.
And what we started to do was start to build year on year on year, very slowly, new ranges coming into the UK, new suppliers coming into the UK, new partners. But we did it in a very structured and slow way that we could actually add benefit to their brands in the market rather than just going out and becoming a badge collector.
Yes.
Because we could
You
be badge collectors.
rationalised your portfolio constantly, as I've noticed through the years, whether it was through cutting out old Vitolas that were maybe out of fashion or popularity, adding new Vitolas, new limited editions, or chopping out ranges because they simply didn't particularly work for the UK market, which I think was very sensible, because what we as retailers don't want to have is a flooding of an offering on our shelves where half the products simply don't sell because they're stale in terms of consumer interest. And I think you balance things out and actually worked with the retailers, which helped make us more successful with our New World offering, which has obviously become quite substantial now. You know, probably when we started, the split between Cubans and New World may have been 90 to 10%, if
or
that.
Even less.
It could have been less. Because of course Davidoff really weren't a player in those days either. But between Davidoff getting their act together and Tor doing things in an unbelievably professional manner of controlling portfolio and marketing and working with the retailers, I can actually tell you now, which is probably the first you've heard of it because I only saw the stats from marketing yesterday, sales have now for the first time gone 60-40 Cuban to New World.
Wow.
Which is really an incredible benchmark, an incredible...
So New World's above Cuba?
No.
Sorry.
60 Cuban, 40 New World. Relax, you need to be having the drink.
Yeah, the guys in Tor say I've always got a bad line, so 60-40 is amazing though.
Absolutely amazing. You know, when you consider our volume on premium cigar sales, that's incredibly substantial. And we're very proud of it because, you know, I love Cuban cigars, I love New World cigars. They're obviously very different Diet Coke, Diet 7-Up sort of scenario. Sometimes you fancy a Cuban, sometimes you fancy a New World, very different. But that's an incredible achievement, and well done you, because you've been instrumental in that shift in the market.
No, and listen, one day, Mitchell, I want the New World terminology to be gone, and I want the Cuban terminology to be gone, and just talk about cigars.
Regions, just talk about premium cigars from different regions.
And this is the region they're from, and a bit like whiskey, where you've got the different regions of whiskey in Scotland.
Oh, Christ.
I'm looking, Isla. I want cigars to be the same. So when people walk into a shop, they ask for cigars, and then from that, what are the different regions?
Yes.
So that's where I see the future.
I think that's where it's going, actually.
And to make the point, the role of a distributor is really simple. It's to add value to the manufacturer and to add value to the retailer. And if we're not doing that, the manufacturer get rid of us. The retailer doesn't stock our products. So it's a very, very simple philosophy that we have. If we're not adding value to your business, you will not do business with Tor.
Correct.
That's it. So there's no rocket science. It's all about how can we work as a retailer to maximise their sales. This is a tough industry. Yeah, it's a tough legislative
It's a very tough industry.
So we have to work, you know, as a collective unit for the future of the industry.
I think, just talking generally, in the UK we do work actually very closely. I think a lot of the retailers work closely, particularly through David's efforts at AITS, the Association of Independent Tobacco Specialists. I think David's been a breath of fresh air for the industry. Bless him, fabulous guy. So I think a lot of the retailers work close together, and I think we all work very well with suppliers generally. Tremendous supplier support throughout our industry, very much like the whiskey industry is in terms of supplier support. So that's a nice thing, because that's a shift that I've seen over the last quarter of a century, where, you know, years ago retailers didn't speak to each other, suppliers were a bit funny with each other sometimes. It was not such a friendly industry. Now it's actually, I won't say a super friendly industry. Most people are sort of
we have our line of competition. But ultimately the legislation in particular, we have to work together.
That's for sure.
Because if we don't, you know, we're going to just shoot ourselves in the foot.
Well, we have Wyndham at ITPAC covering our interests on the legislation side, and he's of course absolutely fabulous for our little industry.
Yeah.
But let's go back for a minute to the 60-40 split, because I think it's very important to sort of clarify what that's all about, because I don't want to put the wrong message out there that New World sales have been taking Cuban cigar sales, because fortunately that's not the situation. The situation is the market has grown in the UK so substantially, perhaps boosted through the COVID period of time and the lockdowns and all the craziness of the last few years. The market has grown, the demographic has changed. So overall our Cuban cigar sales are growing despite the supply shortage. We can talk about more about that separately, but the whole market has grown. But it's the demographic that's causing the shift. So, you know, I think I said in another interview, maybe with Edward and Eddie, when I started in the business, the demographic was more like, I don't know, 60 to 70 years old. Unfortunately, those clients are dead now, and they were lovely guys, a lot of them. It's terrible, but you know, hey, they can't be 100.
Yeah.
A few of them are around, not a lot. And now, you know, marketing recently told me that our demographic is 24 to 32, our biggest demographic. So I think it's that younger generation that are experimenting, experiencing, trying out New World cigars, different regions, different brands, different sizes, and also trying some Cuban cigars. It's not unusual for clients, new clients, to buy 3 boxes of 10, 1 Nicaraguan, 1 Honduran, and 1 Cuban box of 10 cigars, or different packs of 5. And they're trying it out, which is great because, you know, variety is the spice of life, especially with cigars.
And I think in a bizarre way, the industry has COVID to thank for a lot of what's happened in the last few years, as people at home had time, and most people were working behind a computer screen.
Yeah.
So they had time to search and scroll the internet to learn and be educated, but also attend all these Zoom nights that we used to do. So I call it like the Zoom era, the COVID era.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, we think of the events that we did with yourself. We had, you know, Jonathan Drew, Juan Martinez from Hoya, oh geez, Alec and Bradley from Alec Bradley, and
That was a very funny one.
you know,
That was good fun. But they're nice boys.
but
I
it was
love Alec
great that
Bradley.
The consumer, normally we would have to fly these guys over,
Yeah.
spend a week in the UK, traveling around the country. We'd get, you know, 20 people would get to meet them here, or 20 would get to meet them there. But here they were coming to your living room,
Yeah.
basically. And you get an hour and a half with these guys to ask them any question you ever want to ask them. You got to smoke their cigars with them, paired with a whiskey or a rum or whatever. And I think the education and enjoyment that people got from those
Yeah.
events was just immense.
Were you on the Pete Johnson one?
Yeah. I
He was-
interviewed him.
He was fabulous. Sorry, I can't
Yeah.
remember all the
Yeah.
brands and who does every
Yeah.
brand, but the
Yeah.
standout ones were Johnny Drew, obviously, Pete Johnson, he was fabulous, and my good friend Nestor Plasencia. That's
Yeah.
probably not yours,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
a
yeah.
Davidoff
Yeah,
brand.
yeah.
But I love Nestor because to me he's like the rock star tobacco grower
Yeah.
in the business.
Yeah.
In fact, I mean, all the guys were great,
Yeah.
and it was fabulous.
Yeah.
They were pretty well attended, and
Yeah.
I remember afterwards I get so much feedback from people saying, wow, super
Yeah.
fun. We had some good Havana tastings as well. I think we had Sean and Jimmy on a few of the tastings and the Zoom tastings. So yeah, I think they probably kept us, well, me and a lot of my clients sane during the crazy lockdown.
Yeah, but they educated people as well.
They
And it
educated
made
me
people
as
want
well.
to go and explore, you know, the different regions of Nicaragua, Honduras, or Cuba, or the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
It just gave people an insight into, wow, you know, these are, you know, just normal people at the end of the day
Sure.
who have decided to make cigars. And
Well, I was quite surprised how educated a lot of the people on the Zoom were. You know, some of the questions were really pretty, you know, top,
Yeah.
good level, very
Yeah.
sensible questions. The only questions I can't handle is, please, people stop asking me, can you make a Churchill in that brand? Can you make a Churchill in that brand? No.
yeah, well, but no, I'd say the Zoom year, or the Zoom years, has been good for the industry.
Definitely.
And it's like, when I look ahead to where do I think the industry is going to go in the long term, I actually think it's going to go back to where it started. When you see the decline of cigarette smoking,
Yes.
going towards vaping, roll your own continues, but effectively, where we started was cigars and pipe tobacco.
Correct.
And I actually think that's where we're going to end up again.
I think you could be right. Pipe tobacco has grown immensely.
Yeah.
Our pipe division is an animal. It's a monster. It's a beast. It grows literally by the month. I'm fascinated with the pipe business because I don't generally know anything about pipes or pipe tobaccos other than I love the aromas of a good pipe tobacco.
Yeah.
But I'm fascinated about the level of sales in the UK.
Yeah.
I think that's also part of a different generation, the whole beardy motorbike. You think I don't know? Who is it? Who's smoking these pipes?
We have our own brand, Sheraton, that we bought from
Yeah,
Dunhill.
absolutely. Great brand.
And we've seen our financial year end was end of September, and we've had a fantastic year for Sheraton. But we're also in about 12, 13 countries now.
Oh, wow.
And in September, for the first time, we launched in America, and we ran out of stock in 3 weeks.
Amazing.
It is amazing because the guys who make it are like,
But you only had
the
5
lead
tins
time.
to start with.
So I'm going to have to do a relaunch. And as I say, we sold out in 3 weeks.
It's pretty amazing.
Which is amazing because people know the name Sheraton with the
Cigars.
Sheraton Dunhill pipe.
Okay.
So it's a familiar name to pipe smokers.
And you've still got the Sheraton cigar brand.
We do indeed.
I know that because we
And
sold a bucket
next
loads
year's
of them.
our 160th anniversary.
You're looking pretty young for 160 years.
So
Come on,
watch this space.
Give us some inside knowledge. Give us some details. What's your biggest selling brand in your portfolio?
Okay, well the biggest supplier we work with is Hoya de Nicaragua.
Okay.
And I'm smoking their numero uno, which was their 50th.
And they make the Quattro Cinco,
Quattro Cinco.
which is the one I love.
Yeah, they do the
Fabulous cigar.
Their Obe Maestro range, their premium range, the numero uno, the Cinco Decadus, and the, I apologise one for my poor Spanish, and the Quattro Cinco. That range is their kind of premium.
Yeah.
It does very well for us. They also make our Sheraton for us as well. So when we bought Sheraton from Dunhill, what I did was we moved the production from Dunhill's producer straight to Hoya, but I waited a year before telling anyone because I knew if I told people it was made in a different factory, everybody would say,
Of course.
oh, it's a different blend, da, da, da,
Of
da,
course.
da. So we waited purposely a year before making the announcement. So Hoya are our number one cigar supplier, followed by Oliva.
Okay.
And if we add on the machine made that we make for you for the Flying Dutch and the Double Dutch,
Yes.
that also comes from Cortez, which is part of Oliva.
Yeah.
So
Fabulous
they
company.
overall are my biggest supplier. Overall.
Okay.
And we're near a very magic figure with them, which is incredible. Then below that would be Drew Estate. Alex Bradley does incredibly well for us in the UK.
Okay.
And then after that, my father, AJ Fernandez. But there's nobody. I mean, look, this year we've taken out 4 ranges. You know, I sometimes get criticised for having too many. I say, well, actually look at our portfolio. And you'll see if you compare it to last year, we've taken 4 out because they're not performing, or we weren't getting support.
Yeah.
So we just removed them. And this year we've launched 2 new suppliers into the UK. So we're
Name drop
actively
them.
rationalise and optimise. Rationalise, optimise.
Yeah. Who are the 2 new? Can you say?
Well, we've just launched Maya Selva from Honduras,
Right. Yes.
and the other one would be Perdomo that we launched in May.
Excellent. Okay. Good luck with both of them. And let's talk a little bit about our Orchant selection program, which came some years after I started the Orchant.
2014 was the first one.
Okay, and the
Oliva.
first Orchant selection was 2005, with
Okay.
the first release of the Ramon Ayones Belicosos, which I think was the first regional edition, even though it wasn't labelled a regional edition at that time. And that's when my friend, who unfortunately passed away, John Darnton, the wonderful director of Hunts and Frankow, offered me two master cases double banded that I could select myself at Hunters and Francoeur and make them Orchant selection, which we did. 62 master case, it was 64 boxes, and it was the most incredible cigar and the start of our Havana Orchant selection program. So then we followed that with a New World program in 2014.
2014.
With Oliva Orchant selection.
Yeah.
Skinny chubby shorty, boxes
Correct.
of 10.
Yep.
Bundles of 10.
First time Oliva have ever dual branded.
Co-branded, yeah, amazing, and they are quite amazing cigars.
And they still today.
Yeah, still very, very popular, very popular indeed. And then we followed that with Alec Bradley.
Yep.
Again, skinny, chubby, shorty, and then I think we did range line extensions to
the little packs.
the small packs, twisty, pointy, and I can't remember the other one.
Twisty.
There was another one. Oh my gosh, there is
Twisty,
another one.
pointy, and
It's a little nubby one.
Yeah,
I can't remember the name of it.
yeah.
Are they? Can you confirm that they are all still rolled in the Rice's factory in Honduras?
Yes, they are.
Wonderful, which is why they taste so damn good.
Yes, they are.
I love the Alec Bradley Orchant selection because I love that depth of sweetness that runs all the way through the blend. And I remember sitting with the boys at Alec Bradley, and George Souza gave us the samples, my partner Ronnie and I, in Miami.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh my God, this is the one. And he goes,
Yeah.
I knew it. It says Rice's Factory, Honduras.
Yeah.
Very, very sweet, very easy going.
Yeah.
Perfect for the UK cigar smokers palate. And I thought, wow, George really understands the market. I was very impressed.
Well, he took the time to come here, if you remember,
Yes,
regularly.
he did. Yeah.
And that makes a big difference. And I think that's why today Alec Bradley still does as well for us in the UK, because he took the time to come here.
He put in the legwork.
Larger than life guy.
Hell yeah.
Politically incorrect
Totally.
from start to finish, but he created a good following, but he also understood what the UK cigar smoker was looking for.
He was a serious guy when you actually get down to it. He knew the market.
Yeah.
He studied the market. Great guy, good friend of both of ours. And I tell you, when we used to announce there was a tasting event with George Souza, they would sell out, the tickets would sell out within minutes of them going online. It was fascinating to me.
Yeah.
All our tasting events sell out, but some take a week or a month. His was minutes, because he was such a great character. And he could talk about the industry. He had a tremendous knowledge and a lot of jokes.
Yeah,
Very
a lot of
non-PC jokes.
Yeah.
He didn't discriminate. He'd insult everybody.
No, absolutely. There was nobody left out, nobody. Then of course then the Drew Estate, the lightweight.
Heavyweight and middleweight, absolutely.
Yep.
Sort of a nod to boxing, and
Yep.
they are
They're
not
doing very
bad, not bad at all. That was a bit of a change. That was a scale up on the strength and body scale for our cigars.
But I'm very pleased with it.
And we had Johnny Drew come over and do the launch in Liverpool.
He came to Liverpool 2019. He
That
did
was a good
indeed,
evening.
July, that's correct.
Yeah, that was good
Because I
fun.
think on that occasion, the people that came actually got the original cigar that was still waiting to be banded. We were
That's
still waiting
right.
for the band.
They were naked, exactly.
Yep, so people that night got something very unique. That's right, JD came over. It's the only time he's been to the UK.
There you go. We had a nice evening with him.
Yeah, so we must be due another one.
Definitely. The question is what brand. Have to start the whole process again. It's a long process, isn't it? It can
It is
take
indeed.
6 to 12 months to get that blending
People
approved.
just think you...
Oh yeah. Choose one, put a band on.
yeah.
Not quite that simple. Well, not
Yeah.
with me anyway. Maybe with other people.
No, it's... but yeah, no, we're very proud of that, and we're good volume you're selling, good cigars,
Great cigars.
and it's good that we take our time with these projects and don't try to rush them.
You can't,
So-
because if you get it wrong, you'll sell it to me, but I won't sell it to my consumers.
Yeah, and that's
It has to be
Yeah.
has to be very carefully thought
Yeah.
through. And that's not just the blending. I mean, the blending is the one that takes a long time, but then it's the packaging and presentation, the lead time, and to get the right factory, to make the bands correctly, and to get the boxes right. And
Yep.
we think it through very carefully. I mean,
Yep.
it's mainly the input of my partner, Ron Morris, not myself. He's a creative, artistic guy, but you know, he wants a ribbon, and he wants the tissue paper, and he wants the embossing.
Yep.
But I think overall, the project's been amazingly well received by our clients.
the great thing is they're all originals.
Absolutely.
So there's no copy. There's no. You won't find the Oliva or the Drew Estate or the Alec Bradley, there's nothing like it in their portfolio.
Absolutely.
So and that's good. So there's no copy. There's
and we started with Oliva. That was the first.
Yeah, Oliva was
and I
the
think
first.
that was in part thanks to Brian Shapiro.
Yeah, Brian came to Norfolk, if you remember.
Yes.
In the original store.
Yes.
And we stayed at the Chinese restaurant.
So Scott, we had the boom in COVID. Our sales were up incredibly. Your sales, no doubt, were up equally incredibly. Where do you see that landing now? We're getting back to sort of more normal times. Do you see it continuing, leveling off? America is leveling off the market, we hear. Are we following that? What's your view as a supplier?
Yeah, well, I mean, COVID brought its own issues, obviously, because with it being a handmade product, you can't replace the rollers with a machine. So what happened, we had a crazy situation where the volume predominantly in America, which is where most New World cigars are sold, went crazy, but the factories had to start having social distancing, which meant their ability to make a cigar became harder because they had to have gaps between the roller teams. So what happened was a lot of the cigars that were made were getting fed into America to keep the momentum going. There was also issues in countries like Nicaragua where, you know, with the change of president in America, more people leaving Nicaragua in particular to follow the golden path to America.
Sure.
Which meant they had to find new rollers and train them, and you can't just train a roller in a day. It takes a long, long time.
How bad is that issue? Sorry to interject, but that's been asked to me many a time.
It's improved dramatically, but it wasn't just the rolling, it was the band makers, the box makers. It was
so actually it's the same problems in the New World as it is in Cuba, because from everything I hear, it's no secret, the issues are rollers. In Cuba, there's a shortage. There's no particular shortage of raw materials, although there may be now with the hurricane situation, Hurricane Ian in Cuba. But there's been a shortage of boxes and bands, which have caused, exacerbated the supply shortage.
It's the whole thing, and it's that's why I mean, we made a decision way back at the beginning, back in 2012 when I took over Tor, that my primary focus would be to work with vertically integrated cigar makers who farmed all the way through to the final product, so that they controlled the seed to smoke effectively.
Yes.
So that was a conscious decision I made way back then as I was really learning about the industry. So rather than work with people who get cigars made for them in a factory,
yes,
I wanted to work with the guys who do it all. So what's happened in the last few years is you have people like the Olivas, for example, who have their own box making factory, and that's becoming more common in the vertically integrated companies. So that issue that has been around for some companies hasn't affected us at Tor as much,
right? Because
these guys are on it with the seed all the way through.
I know this well because of Inca Secret Blend. Our friend Gennaro, Tabacalera del Oriente, literally makes everything there, which is the only way to control production.
Absolutely, 100%. It's consistency and quality. That's the key. You know, it's got to be a good product, and it's got to be a consistent
blend consistency,
all the way
construction
through.
consistency,
Absolutely.
Presentation, no blurry bands.
Absolutely. So, long story short, it's kind of COVID brought a lot of issues, because a lot of third-party band makers, third-party box makers, rice paper, everything basically to do. We had crazy situation, the flight situations. Like we ship a lot of our cigars from Nicaragua through Miami to the UK.
Of course.
But of course there wasn't as many flights flying.
Absolutely.
So all of a sudden, instead of having 2 or 3 flights a week or whatever from Managua to Miami, there might only be one, and then the airlines have to make up their mind what products are they going to put on, and if medicine's at the front, medicine will go on that flight. And
is this not medicine? Oh, sorry. This is medicine.
Yeah. So it wasn't just the production, it was also the supply. And of course then the supply became more expensive because there's fewer flights and the cost of fuel's going up and the dollar. So that 2 years was a real
Challenge.
headache, and it was a challenge.
But back to the original question.
But going back to where you were saying is, the American market got fed cigars because the American consumers were eating cigars. So I think for the growth from 2018 to 2021 has been just off the radar in America, just off the radar. 400 and something million cigars, which
That's
is
a boom.
crazy. But I think we're starting to see evidence that the market's kind of slowing down slightly in America, not decreasing, but stabilising.
Okay.
But they're stabilising at an increase of what were 4 years ago. So they still have to make the cigars for the American
Sure.
market. So from our perspective, the way we've been tackling it is, as we have grown, we have invested in stock. So I know my stock valuation, for example, is at its highest it's ever been in our history.
I'll
And
have to
we've-
buy more from you.
Exactly. But we've been not stockpiling, but we've just been buying more and more and more. And bizarrely, Brexit has helped me in that, because most of our cigar makers were opening up hubs in Europe, and we would buy monthly if we wanted to, or weekly if we wanted to. But of course, coming from Europe now to the UK, you have to pay a community tax,
Yes.
because it's not the country of origin. That's a complicated area.
25%
So-
on value.
Yeah, so it actually became more effective for us to buy straight from the factory gate and ship from the factory. So we've done that with nearly all of our supply now, which means we're buying more. When retailers in the UK want stock, generally speaking, they get what they're asking for.
Yes.
Sod's law, you get a run on a product, but that's just the way any industry is. It doesn't have to be cigars.
Sure.
So I'm pretty confident that we can supply, and we can supply the demand.
But as we head towards recession, what's your feeling
I don't
as
know.
a supplier in terms of, does this demand continue at the current pace, or will it slow down? I mean, our take as retailers is, during times of recession, cigar smoking goes up dramatically, as does alcohol consumption. A bit of a comfort product, a bit of a treat yourself product, rather than go out to an expensive restaurant. You might buy a nice bottle of wine and a pack of cigars, whatever that may be, a 5, a 10, a 25. But I've been in the business, well, over 30 years now in total. I've seen a few recessions, and our biggest boom times have been in recession. So it's going to be interesting to see, following the boom of COVID and lockdowns, do we actually follow that with this plateau year that we're having, if you like? Well, not quite plateau, we've had a bit of growth, but do we now see another mini boom as we head into recession potentially?
It's a good question, Mitchell. I mean, we keep forecasting our stock levels for growth. We're not forecasting for
As do
decline. I think people generally want to keep hold of some luxury in their life, and whether
It's a
that's
feel-good product.
Yeah, exactly. We're selling a lifestyle of choice. You know, people want to sit outside for 45 minutes to 2 hours and smoke a cigar,
Did
or
you
in
say
the house.
sit outside?
Yeah.
We're English, we smoke indoors.
Right. Okay.
Not like these
I'm
American
Scottish.
chaps.
But yeah, I think people will. The last thing they will want to give up is that little bit of luxury or a little bit of comfort or lifestyle that they want to keep.
For sure.
And I think people are educating themselves now that they want to try different things as well. You know, the days of sticking to a brand are gone, I think.
Yeah,
now.
we've seen
People
that.
want to explore a humidor. And while, hopefully people will be able to, afford to do that in the future, as long as that continues, happy days. And I don't see any evidence at this moment in time of sales going backwards.
No, I don't either.
I see more and more interest, genuine interest from people in the UK and wherever in cigars. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. The way the industry, I think, will move in the future is cigars and pipe tobacco will be the core. The government have this target to reduce smoking to less than 5% by 2030.
2030, that's right.
But that's all driven with cigarettes.
Of course.
So
Different
if
industry.
we keep our share, then I think the cigar industry in the UK will be reasonably happy
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah,
So-
I think that makes sense. Well, Scott, it's been brilliant to catch up with you.
Thank you.
Great to go over all the industry gossip, and thank you for coming onto our little YouTube channel. Hopefully our viewers have enjoyed, and if you have, like, subscribe and share. And for cigar tips, you can always email me. For share tips, don't email me. It's not a good idea. Have a great day. Cheers.
Right, thank you very much.
Cigar.
Lovingly.
There you go.